Well, the last time I visited with you on this platform was in my airplane coming to Washington, and I explained to you that Al Franken was not going to be able to hang in the United States Senate, that all of this that was going on was eventually going to catch up with him, and eventually the political pressure was going to mount to the point where something was going to have to give. And lo and behold, I have never seen anything mount like this in a matter of minutes in Washington. Kirsten Gillibrand, who is the senator from New York, put on Facebook this morning at about 11:30 that she thought that Al Franken had to step aside, and then it caught like wildfire. Then it was 6 senators. Then it was 9. Then it was some male senators getting on board, not just women. And now tomorrow, Franken's going to make an announcement. You know, I feel sorry for Al, but the fact of the matter is that he's hung up at the altar of moral behavior and judgment, a perfect storm, and the Roy Moore situation is intensifying this politically in Washington. Now, this week, the Republicans came out after disavowing Roy Moore. Now they're giving him money through the RNC, and the president is supporting him. Well, obviously, the Democrats saw a political opening here. That's not our party. That's them. This is what we're going to do. Oh, by the way, guess what, Al Franken? You are now the sacrificial lamb. It was only groping and grabbing, but wait a minute. Gillibrand from New York comes out and says it doesn't matter. It's all in the same genre. It's all in the same conversation. If you're trying to separate what assault is or what unwanted advances are, then you're having the wrong conversation. So this really, and I don't want to overstate this, but I really do believe that this could be a real turning point for anybody who ever wants to run for public office. The last time this happened where senators got together and forced the resignation was Trent Lott back in 2007 when he made a comment about then Senator Strom Thurmond that was racially insensitive, that Strom Thurmond would have been president if we hadn't had all these other problems. And it snowballed on him. The Bush administration turned against Trent Lott, and the next thing you knew, he was out of the Senate. And such is the case going to be tomorrow for Al Franken. And it's about sexual harassment. There was another woman that came out. Franken quickly denied it today, categorically denied, but it's just too much. And so the Democrats collectively are telling Al, you got to get out. It looks like he is going to make the announcement tomorrow. Now, the governor of Minnesota is going to have to step in and appoint someone if Al does resign tomorrow. And I think Jesse Ventura would be a fantastic United States senator. But wait a minute, he's got a show on RT America. And I know a lot of you people out there would view that as the Russians are invading the United States Senate because that's how freaking stupid some of you are. But I think it'd be funnier than hell if Jesse Ventura was in the Senate. Now let's review Al Franken for just a moment in all fairness. Al Franken was never really the perfect candidate for the United States Senate. He propped himself up politically from the entertainment world and his fame of Saturday Night Live by doing liberal talk radio and being on Air America. And a lot of the financial backers to this day believe that it was Franken who deep-sixed Air America with his salary of $1 million a year. And you know the rest of the story. Well, Franken gets out of radio, runs for the Senate, runs against Norm Coleman. And it wasn't until June 30th of 2009 that Franken was declared the winner in a long, massive recount in Minnesota to defeat Norm Coleman. So the Democrats had 60 votes in the Senate from June 30th of 2009 until the Tea Party wave just a little over a year later in November of 2010. Al Franken went to the United States Senate, and after railing on the Bush-Cheney agenda, he voted to extend the Bush tax cuts. That's right. Good old liberal Al. He voted to extend the Bush tax cuts. He bought into this, you can't raise taxes on the job creators. That's what Bush and Cheney were saying, which was not a good move in the liberal community. Al Franken went around and touted his love for the veterans, but never raised his voice about the miscare and mistreatment of veterans and all the problems that were going on at the VA. Al Franken recently, in the last year, infuriated the liberal base because he was a superdelegate for Hillary Clinton at the convention when the state of Minnesota, the constituents of Al Franken, voted for Bernie Sanders. Both he and Klobuchar went to the convention and did exactly what the majority of Minnesota Democrats didn't want. They didn't want Hillary, they wanted Bernie. And then Franken went on CNN and gave an interview saying that, well, the people of Minnesota, they hired me for my judgment, not just to represent them. And I thought that was about the most arrogant thing I'd ever heard. He went to Washington for himself, and he wanted to support Hillary because he thought Hillary was going to be the next president. And he didn't want to be in the line of fire with the Clintons, and we know how volatile they can be. So he said, shit on the people in Minnesota. I don't care if you want Bernie, I'm going with Hillary. And I don't know if I'll ever forgive Franken for that. That was a fatal political mistake. So when you look at the Bush tax cuts, when you look at his lack of support for the veterans, although he said he did all the time, and then you look at what he did to Bernie Sanders, he's no liberal. I got no time for Al Franken. I'm glad he's getting kicked out of the Senate. And I think this is really a vetting process is taking place that if you ever have anything in your background that you might have to answer for, don't run for public office. It's very simple. Don't run. Don't run for public office. Because now we have seen clearly that senators will get together and there will be an enema when it comes to behavior and what are the standards of a United States senator. And that's basically what these senators are saying. Al, you don't measure up, you got to leave. Now, from the political aspect, I've documented to you what I don't like about it. Is Al a nice guy? Well, I don't know him that well. Does he deserve to go? His colleagues think he does. Do the people of Minnesota? What do the people of Minnesota care? Al Franken didn't care about you when you voted for Bernie Sanders. So this is all going to work out. But I do think that the Roy Moore situation certainly had the political winds in Al Franken's face to the point where he couldn't navigate anymore and couldn't function. And when they want you out, you got no choice but to get out. Because when they say they think you should step down, that means that none of them are ever going to sign on to any legislation that you ever author, which means you would be completely ineffective to represent people from any state in the Senate. That's just the way it works in Washington. I told you.